Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam natan b'tukenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. This week our Torah portion is Shoftim, which means in Hebrew, judges. As we are in the 5th parashah in the book of Devarim. Now we can see the sign of these just judges as a precursor to what will be at the end with Yahweh judging us all righteously for all things. So now as we open in this parashah, we have now come to the point where Yahweh, through Moshe, instructs the whole of Clad Yisrael that they should appoint judges and officers in all of their towns that Adonai, their Yahweh, is giving them. Now for them, the children of Yisrael, to judge them with not just any type of judgment, but of righteous judgment. That they are to be held upright as judges and not accept any kind of bribery, and that they should follow after justice in order to inherit the land that Adonai, Yahweh, was giving them, in which is the land that Yahweh was giving them freely. But just as when a friend or parent gives you a pet or a cat or a dog, there are responsibilities that you must accept and do good to follow in order to maintain and keep the freely given pet alive. So too is it the same when accepting all that Yahweh bestows before each and every one of us, his children. Now, one rule is that Yahweh states to them not to plant any tree next to the altar of Yahweh, nor a pillar, which is something that Yahweh hates. Along with a warning that the children of Israel are not to sacrifice any blemished ox or sheep or with any defect whatsoever, which is also an abomination to Yahweh. Now, why is that? Well, one main point to state is that Yahweh is pure and righteous. So why offer up to him who is pure in any blemished or defected offering that is not like an offering that is the best of your choices? In other words, this is like offering the last of your choice offering rather than the first fruits or best of your offering. Such as I will show you a big great example of this. Now this example is such as when Cain had offered up the least of his flock to Yahweh, as opposed to Abel, who offered up the first and best of his crops to Yahweh, who then accepted whose offering? Exactly, Abel, not his brother's Cain. Now remember that in the former days of old, that Yahweh would have those who chose to turn away from him and follow other gods, or the sun, or the moon, or any host of Shamayim heaven, if they were found guilty on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses, not just 1, but 2 or 3 witnesses or more, then they would be brought up out of their gates and would be stoned to death, first by the hand of the witnesses, and then by the hand of all of the people of the land. So if Yahweh was upset with them, as he was then, could you imagine what it is that he is thinking and going to do to all of those today who turn from him and deny his one and only begotten Son at the day of judgment? This is why, if we love our brethren and sisters, we must try to teach them of Yeshua and pray for them to repent and live a Kodesh life. Because Yahweh tells us that we are to purge sin and evil from our midst, but it will be a day like no other when he removes it for himself from his midst. And next, as we follow on and as we move forward, the children of Israel are informed that if there is any kind of dispute or decision that is too hard to decide within themselves, that they are to seek out the Levitical priest and to the judge who is in office at their time, and that they shall declare the decision, and that they are to do as they declare and accept the Levitical priest or the judge's decision. Now, with all the control that Yahweh had bestowed over those judges to judge, this is why a judge must be a righteous person that is not corrupt, nor acceptant of taking briberies or giving unjust verdicts, because they are controlling the life of somebody, whether it will live or not. Now, after the word on priests and judges, Yahweh next has words to give on the laws of the kings, that once clad Yisrael, the whole of Israel, comes to possess the Yahweh-given land, that they shall say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations around me. But they are told that they shall have a king, but that this king must be one from among their brethren, and not a foreigner, and that he must not do what Solomon later did do, and that is acquired many horses for himself, for he would have to have the children of Israel return to the place that Yahweh had removed them from, and that is Egypt, Mitzrayim, to acquire these horses. So why return to the sin, the place that Yahweh restored you from? And nor shall he acquire multiple wives. And once again, just as Solomon did, for they would cause him to turn his heart away from Yahweh, as well as for acquiring excessive silver and gold. That once again, Solomon did do. We are to be content with all that Yahweh supplies us, whether it be a little or a lot. We must not focus on money and things of this world that will lead us astray. Now the Mishnah states that one who is content with his portion, he is rich. So I ask you, how rich are you? Now, speaking about this chosen king, the chosen king is to keep and write for himself in a book the law approved by the Levitical priest who will present it to him, and that he is to keep it with him, and he is to read it daily for all of the days of his life, and that he fear Yahweh by keeping all of his laws, and not only keeping them and acting on them, but doing them, living them. And by doing this and fearing Yahweh, he would continue long in his kingdom along with his children in Yisrael. Now, we must all understand that Yahweh takes care of those that take care of his words. So if you protect his words, he in turn will protect you. And we are not to ever do as others who do not worship Yahweh do in their ways of worship, such as it is with burning our children or passing them through fire as an offering. Remember now that even Yeshua wasn't passed through a fire, but instead had the tongues of fire fall on the disciples. Nor are we to practice divination or tell fortunes, such as fortune tellers, or use or channel sorcery, or become a medium to channel or speak through, or for demons. Now, have you ever noticed that when people channel things or they use Ouija boards and any of these demonic things, they usually get a visitation with their family by so-called alien beings, which are demonic fallen angels? Think about this. You opened the door and accepted it. You made the call to them and they answered. And now they traced you or tracked you. And they can come for you. But through Yahweh, all of this can be removed through accepting his son Yeshua and repenting. And rebuking these things. Nor are you to dial in on necromancy. All things that are abominations to Yahweh, such as with this new I'm saying this New Age movement who insistently channel entities. Now next, Yahweh informs Clad Yisrael that he will raise up another prophet from among them other than Moshe, that they shall listen to. And why? Because they requested on Mount Horeb to not hear the voice of Yahweh or see the great fire, lest they die. And this is why Yahweh today uses prophets to speak to his people at our request. Now those that do not take heed to what Yahweh's prophets say, they will be removed, because this is required of them by Yahweh, to respect what these true prophets of Yahweh says, because they speak for Yahweh. But now, if there is a prophet who speaks a word that Yahweh did not say, then he shall surely die. Or if he speaks in the name of other gods. Now this false prophet, I ask you, how would we know of a false prophet? One way is by seeing his word not come to pass. And also if he tries to lead you to another God who is not Yahweh. Now, Yahweh is feared and expects us all to be feared. So when we have a possession of land, we are not to remove the allotted spaces, landmarks, and achieve more while taking from our brethren, lessening them in their property. As if it was in reverse and they did it to you, you would clearly agree that it is not fair. Always remember to be like Yeshua, who was always just and fair. Now, as he is fair, as is the Abba Yahweh, he informs the children of Israel to give their enemies a chance to live or die. That if their enemies choose to fight against the given peace terms, then they shall besiege all their enemies, and being all the males there, they shall take them to the sword, and take the children and the women as spoil, along with their livestock as their booty. But it is their enemies that if they accept the fair peace terms, then they shall let them all live amongst them, but as slaves or workers to them, or servants to them. Now, as we move forward into our half-Torah portion, Yahweh is now questioning us on the fact that we fear man, when we should only fear him, the Abba, Yahweh, Yeshua, the one who is the creator of Adam, man. He is informing us that we had forgotten him who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth. Now Yahweh is next reminding us all that if we choose to accept him and are his people, that he wants us to wake up and to stand up, meaning to be righteous and just and observant of his words and his statutes, to keep him. He is next telling all of us who have turned away from him and had to suffer because of our defiance to and towards him, that he is blessing us once again upon our repentance, and that he is going to take his cup of wrath from us and instead going to give it to our tormentors, our enemies, our pursuers, who have said to us, bow down, that we may pass over on our backs as a road for them, our oppressors. He is telling us to rejoice and to rise and to be glad in him again, and to put on our best as he is freely redeeming us all again, for all of us to hear, as there will be a time in the future when people will know the day of Yahweh in his name, and that it was him who spoke all good things since the beginning. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who bring good news, who publishes peace, shalom, who brings good news of happiness and publishes salvation, who says to Zion, your Yahweh reigns. The voice of your watchmen, they lift up their voices. Together they sing for joy. For eye to eye they see the return of the Adonai to Zion. Bring forth together into singing your waste places of Jerusalem. For the Adonai has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. The Adonai has bared his holy arm before the eyes of all the nations. And all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our Yahweh. Depart, depart. Go out from there. Touch no unclean thing. Go out from the midst of her. Purify yourselves, you who bear the vessels of Adonai. For you shall not go into haste, and you shall not go into flight. For the Adonai will go before you, and the Yahweh of Israel will be your rear guard. Truly a blessing and shalom, peace to know that Yahweh goes before us and will be behind us to always protect us and take us under his wings. Now, in our gospel portion, we are at a critical point when Judas comes with a crowd led by the spirit of Satan to try and rid the world of its light in the darkness, in the light. That light is our Messiah, Yeshua. Now Judas came out and kissed Yeshua, but what followed next? Next, Yeshua said, friend, do what you came to do. Now this is big because earlier we were just informed that there are two big signs to tell if someone is in fact a false prophet. Number one is they try to turn you to another God. But what did Yeshua do? This is right. He tried to lead us all to the Abba, Yahweh, never turning us away from him, but magnifying him. And next, we are told a false prophet dreams, and are his predictions then do not come to pass. But here we clearly see that Yeshua told Judas to do what you came to do. So we see that Yeshua said and knew that this was going to happen, and he expected it. Remember earlier on, he told Judas to speedily do what he does or will be doing. Just as he in our last gospel portion told the disciples that he would not be with them much longer. So with all of this, we can clearly see that Yeshua was the real deal. Next, after the account of Simon Peter and the sword, Yeshua tells his followers, the Talmudim, that all who take the sword will perish by it. Meaning that if you do as the world, you will die as those who are of and for the world and a part of the world. Now we are to love and forgive, not kill and take vengeance. So I say to you, put down the sword and pick up your stick, or as many know it, your cross. Now last but not least, I want to draw attention to this. So now, Yeshua was betrayed by Judas for 30 pieces of silver. And now they took those 30 pieces of silver that Judas returned and brought the potter's field to be a field for a burial place for strangers. But get and understand this. I ask you, who were those strangers that were buried there? Think about this. These strangers were the Gentiles who possibly converted and will rise again through faith in Yeshua. So think about that as we close on this week's Torah portion. The same thing that was used to betray Yeshua, Yahweh made into a blessing later, because Yeshua will come back and raise those who were used and buried in those fields that were bought on the expense of his behalf. And now we will have the Aaronic blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. This has been a weekly Messianic Torah portion from Following Yeshua Ministries. For more information or for help, please visit www.followyeshuanow.com. Shabbat Shalom.